Welcome to the Following on India podcast. We are on the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. We're going to be right here just after stumps on every day. I'm Jarrod Kimber. With me is Saurabh Somani, and we're going to be going through. I was going to say we're going to go through the action, but if we went through the action today, we would both end up with nosebleeds. So I don't know. Let's just start with this, Saurabh. What was your favourite wicket of the 17 we saw today?
Favorite. My favorite.
It could take 10 minutes for you to remember them.
It could, but actually, just because of recency bias, I'm going to say the last ball, which was not a wicket, but which almost resulted in one. Bumrah bowled a perfect slower ball. Stark popping the catch back would have been perfect. But if not that, then yeah, I think Harshit Rana's bowling Travis Head would have to be the favorite. That really, I wasn't expecting Harshit Rana to be this good so quickly at Test cricket. Like we haven't really seen much of him because he hasn't played much, and clearly the Indian team saw something in him and they took a punt on him. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the other way to look at it is that if you or I had bowled Seam up today, we were an outside chance of taking a wicket as well. It was a ridiculously good day to bowl Seam. Let's just go through it. Let's start with the toss, because I think the toss is quite interesting. So generally, the best day to bat at Perth Stadium, and we've only had, 4 or 5 tests there, so we don't have a lot of information, but the best day to bat is day one, because what happens is, then the sun hits that surface and it cracks open. It cracks open a lot quicker and a lot more violently than the whacker. I don't think it's just quite as quick or bouncy a wicket as the whacker, but it's not far off, to be fair, either. But it goes quite violently. India looked at all that data, right? Then they looked at the fact that it had been raining all week and there was a little bit of grass. But Jasprit Bumrah had no hesitation to bat first. At what stage do you think he had a hesitation to bat first? Was it when he saw Mitchell Starc bowling better than Mitchell Starc has bowled for 5 years? That's probably when I would have had some hesitation.
Yeah, I think after that first hour, suddenly he might have thought, oh, maybe I would have been bowling on this. But yeah, and Mitchell Starc, he was just like 2015, it was, or whenever he last bowled like that, I don't know.
Whenever he was good in Test cricket.
Yes.
I mean, it's been a while, hasn't it? He hasn't bowled like that, and he came out, and I was sitting there watching it going, this is legitimate top-class Test match bowling. And I know he'd been in rhythm against Pakistan, and there was the Shield game where everyone had been raving about him and everything, but it's like, he's been average to poor at times for Australia over the last couple of years, and he was absolutely fantastic. What shocked me about Mitchell Starc early on was he was actually hitting a good length consistently, which I don't even know if in his best we saw him do that.
No, I think what happens with Mitchell Starc is, he has been average to poor, like you said, but he has these spurts of maybe a spell of great bowling, which makes the end stats look decent. So yep. He in this morning I think he bowled one wide, and then I suddenly thought, oh, is he going back to spraying it a little? But then that's it, that was the one wide and that was it. Everything else was on target. I think he was actually unlucky. He should have got more wickets than he did.
I was thinking today also about Josh Hazlewood. Josh Hazlewood might be the most informed bowler in world cricket, and yet not the best bowler in this game, because Jasprit Bumrah exists. Like, it's a ridiculous life to live. I think in his last 6 or 7 test matches, he's averaging like 13 or something. And that was before today, I think. So it was absolutely incredible. Starc obviously opened it up and got the lucky wicket of KL Rahul, but it was really Hazlewood that, like, just every time Australia got themselves in a bit of trouble, Hazlewood sort of was there to help them out, wasn't he?
Yeah. And I mean, it seems like he just does it every time. And they were talking about it on air also. It was like, why isn't Hazlewood as big, a star as Cummins and Starc? He's part of the same attack, and he does things as good as both of them do, And someone said, it was David Warner. He said, no, he's not on social media. He just doesn't like it. He prefers having a pint to putting up a post, and that's why he's not. Which there could be something to that, but. I think,
I think that's fair. He's probably slightly less sexy than them as well, isn't he? He's a bit more metronomic. I have to correct you, though. I think if he was drinking in New South Wales, he would drink a schooner and not a pint. Although he might be a pint man. I'm not sure. Depends where you're from in New South Wales. But I think the most surprising thing today was we knew well, I only found out today, but some of us knew that Mitchell Marsh was going to bowl a couple of days ago when Pat Cummins was talking about it. A couple of weeks ago, we thought Australia was in all sorts of trouble because they have all these all-rounders and none of them were fit. Suddenly, Mitch Marsh, not only does he play, not only is he bowling, they're bowling him just after lunch. And he takes 2 really important wickets. Those are such bonuses because at that stage, Cummins wasn't bowling well at all. And looking at this game now, if India had got away in that section, could be a completely different game.
Yeah, exactly. And you felt like India had let it get away from them, by getting out to Mitch Marsh. Although, to be fair to him, he bowled pretty well. It's not like they played some outrageous shots and got out. He bowled pretty well. So, and he got those important wickets, like you said. And you thought that was the time period in which India can mount some sort of a fight back, make 225 to 250 sort of possible on the horizon. But then Mitch Marsh came and ensured that it was just 150. Which, yeah, like you said, no Cameron Green, Mitch Marsh hasn't bowled. Even Pat Cummins I think he hasn't bowled with a red ball for a while, right? He's coming, so he was a little rusty, although he still came and took Pant's wicket, but he was a little rusty. So it did feel like, there could be something there, but Mitch Marsh ensured that this test is still alive. So, which we didn't know it then.
No. Well, that's what I was going to ask you next is, what did you feel when India was bowled out for 150? What was your general thoughts at that point?
I felt the team has let itself down a little because it felt like they were more than 150 to get there. And I also thought, at what point does Virat Kohli's form become a talking point? Obviously, the team management is always going to say, we back him with this, that. And yeah, it worked beautifully for him when they last played in Perth, standing outside the crease and all that. But I saw a lot of chatter about, maybe, it's not working as well because his reflexes have slowed a bit. He's just turned 35, Virat Kohli. So, yeah, he's not in that young prime phase of his anymore. Although because he's Virat Kohli and because of his insane fitness regimen, you could argue that maybe he has extended his prime because he still has the fitness and reflexes and agility of a younger guy. But maybe it's sort of catching up, because this standing outside used to work for him and it's not working anymore. And I thought that might be the talking point, but then it's suddenly I saw Steve Smith get out first ball, which actually I'll change my answer to that. That's my favorite wicket. Okay. Because that was because of the almost symmetry of it, that Smith also he shuffles across all that. He used to do it in his prime, in his sleep, I don't know. and he'd get bowlers bowling straight and just pick them off. And it was always known that if you could basically get it past his bat, then he was an LBW candidate or bold candidate or whatever. But you just couldn't get through him in his prime. And now first ball is through him. Of course, he was facing Jasprit Bumrah, but
yeah, I mean, what I was going to say is it's really funny because I thought Jaiswal could have been the story of the day because again, we see him outside off stump nicking off, right? And it's like it's becoming a big deal, especially when he plays away from India. I think he averages 20 outside of India when the ball is outside off stump, right? Like you just can't survive if that's the case. People are going to bowl outside off stump to you. Then I thought, Patakal looked a little bit slow. Not only was Kohli down the wicket, but he was standing like on middle stump and going across his stumps. Then he got one that bounced a little bit. We had the KL Rahul DRS, which almost doesn't even feel like a conversation anymore. But I don't know what happened there because we seemed to get a different camera feed in different parts of the world that other people did. We didn't get the third umpire speaking. The Fox commentators, which is on the world feed, were all saying, why is this being given out? And then there were people watching other feeds going, no, of course it was given out because of this reason. But there were all these little things. And then, as you say, all the way through to, we haven't even talked about the fact that Marnus could have been out obstructing the field at one stage, and I'm still not sure why the umpire didn't actually take a second look at that, if nothing else. Then you had Marnus's form, who looked like he'd never batted before. McSweeney, making his debut, disappearing. there's all these incredible sort of stories happening, but the truth is that all this cricket was just played at such a fast forward speed that you almost had no chance to like settle on one thing.
During the first hour or first session, I thought we would spend half the podcast talking about KL Rahul's dismissal or non-dismissal, and by the by the end of the day's play, I had almost forgotten it. That's how fast forward this day's play was. But yeah, you were saying about Manas also. Manas's form is also, I don't know if is it talked about a lot. Is it a concern in Australia or?
I mean, the thing is, in the last little while, you've had David Warner obviously dropping off at the end of his career, Steve Smith opening the batting, and also struggling in his career. And then there was the missing opener. So Marnus has been mentioned, but there's so many things. If you have a look, we all talk about how bad the Indian batting has been for a while, right? You look at the Australians, I can't remember how long it is. Maybe it's in the last 10 test matches or something. I think Mitch Marsh is the only one averaging 40 in that time. Everyone else has been struggling over recent times. And like you hear things like, oh, Alex Carey is back in form. And it's like, well, he played a good innings. He's not like making lots of runs. Usman Khawaja, oh, we've got one rock at the top of the order. Well, no, he hasn't made any runs this year either. And he's old as hell, right? Like, so it's a bit different than in India where I think it's impossible to not look past Virat Kohli, right? So even when you're having a go at the other players, Virat Kohli's going to be there. Marnus is like so far down the pecking order, but it's been a long time now without any runs. And he should have been caught today. I'm not saying he should have been out obstructing the field, although I would have liked to have seen that again. And I think the umpire should have looked at it. But he looked terrible. It was one of those innings where the longer that you bat, the worse you look, right?
Yeah, it's like he was trying to play himself in, and he still just didn't look in until he got out. But the obstructing the field, I don't know. I don't even think India were fully serious in their appeal. It was just like a half appeal and then it just died down. But it would have made this day even more interesting or incendiary. I don't know what it would have been.
Yeah, so, I mean, you go through all this, but I think what we really saw today is, and let's get back to this wicket. So, we talked about it a little bit at the top. This wicket isn't really it wasn't what India was expecting because they wouldn't have won the toss and batted. Australia said they were 50-50 about whether they would bat first or bowl first. So I think Australia had some thoughts that the wicket might play up a little bit, which is more than fair. But you look at everything that we've seen today, and it's like, I've just been looking it up. So this year in Australia, wickets are falling every 40 balls in test matches, right? And traditionally in Australia, it's like 60, 65, 70. Like, it's almost twice as likely to see a wicket in Australian cricket as ever before. And this pitch is playing a part, and that's fine. We've seen the Perth Stadium. It's always favours bowlers. I don't think we've seen a Perth Stadium wicket that's probably ever been batting friendly. I think the batting average on day one at the Perth Stadium is usually 38, and then afterwards it's like 22 or something. I think by day 5 it's like 13, right? Like it just goes down further and further. But we are seeing this right across the country, right? Like, it is really hard to score on Australian wickets anymore. And it's not that the pitches have changed all that much. But this Kookaburra ball, did you see when India had it at the end of the day, you could still see the Kookaburra logo on it. 10 years ago, the Kookaburra logo would disappear about an over in, right? Like, these balls, they've got more lacquer on them, and Kookaburra reinforced that seam. It was darting around for both teams all over the place.
Yeah, I saw a stat that said that there's limited sample size for this stadium, but this was the most seam movement that has been there on day one of any test played here. Yeah. And obviously, seam movement is the most difficult to play, and plus you have got high quality bowlers delivering it. Hazelwood, Stark, Cummins on one side, Bumrah, Siraj was switched on for his second spell, especially. Harshit Rana came on with full of that energy and bustle. So it was just, it's going to be difficult to play. So, I mean, this is a little bit of hindsight, but yeah, maybe it's not so surprising that 17 wickets, 17, right? Yeah, not 18. 17 wickets fell, given the extravagant seam movement.
No, exactly. I think, wasn't it? It was 0.9 degrees was the seam average, which means anything over 1 degree is considered pretty much unplayable. And we saw the average was almost at 1 degree. For, some of those balls, you look at the Bumrah one to Steve Smith, and because of his angle, it doesn't look that unplayable. But when you actually look at it on the Hawkeye, you're like, wow. And the Harshit Rana one was another one that, just did a lot. Let's get to Bumrah, because we've talked about him a little bit, but that opening spell, I mean, there was a couple of times when he bowled against New Zealand where I thought he bowled brilliantly, but he didn't always have his line correct. And by that I mean he was bowling over the wicket when he should have been around the wicket, or he was bowling a little bit shorter when he should have been bowling fuller. It's like he watched the Australians today and went, do you know what? If I'm 1.5 meters fuller than them, I'm going to be even better. He really is a supercomputer when he's at his best, isn't he?
He's exactly like that. Like, I don't remember a single series where I have seen Bumrah not get better as the series goes on. Like he might have started at a high level already, then maybe he just continues. But maybe to put it another way, I've never seen him go worse. It's like whatever information he gathers about the opposition, about the conditions and all, is all stored, and then it's whatever the algorithm spits it out into a new improved version of Bumrah. And he might be an algorithm. I don't know how does he bowl like that.
I'm going to go a step further too. I think he is at the moment very close to working out how to bowl with the new ball. Because you look at his stats in his career, and he's been brilliant with the older ball all the way through. And with the new ball, he's been okay, but he doesn't stand out, right? I was watching him today, and I was thinking back to some of those spells we saw against New Zealand, even when he didn't take wickets against New Zealand. And I was like, if he works out how to bowl with the new ball and the old ball, we are genuinely looking at someone who, if injury doesn't slow him down, could end up with 200 wickets at under 20. Like, that number, all those numbers seem made up, but that's where he's going. Because if he can match what he does with the old ball with what he does with the new ball, like as you said, that slower ball today, we know he's got the old ball stuff down pat. But he's so much better with the new ball now, I reckon, over the last couple of months.
I'd seen that stat, that Bumrah bowls better with the old ball than with the new ball. But for me, it was just a matter of time before the new ball stats would catch up. Maybe we're just spoiled by Bumrah's, excellence and his ability to just deliver every time. But it wasn't even a question for me. I just thought that, oh yeah, that average is going to come down. Like, it was like a matter of fact thing. He's just, the other, so just to go back to, I thought we'll discuss KL Rahul first. And then I thought we could just spend the whole podcast coming up with adjectives for Bumrah. See how much time we have before we run out.
We could do that forever. It's worth mentioning, as you said before, Siraj looked like he was in rhythm. I think you're right. I think his first spell was okay, but his second spell, he looked magnificent. And there was that period where it didn't look like anyone could score off him. Harshit Rana, we'll get more chance to talk about him as the test match goes on. But I just want to finish up with the one batter today who looked like he remembered to bring his actual bat with him, Saurabh, and that was Rishabh Pant. And he, at one stage, he was facing Pat Cummins. Fine leg was back. And he decided to scoop for Pat Cummins over his right shoulder for 6, despite the fact that the fielder was back there. It was just a ridiculous shot, and he fell over playing it as well. He is such a ridiculous talent, isn't he? And it was a real shame that he went out, because it didn't matter to me whether they got a big score or a little score. I just wanted him to be flailing away until the end.
It's like, he has played this shot maybe once every test innings when it comes off. And each time you sort of gasp at it. You sort of think, wow, how the hell did he do that? He does it every test and he still evokes the same reaction, Pant. I have a lot of, I give a lot of latitude towards Pant's dismissals. Like, we all know he's been dismissed in the 90s a lot and all. Today's dismissal was the only time I felt like, even in his game, this was perhaps a low percentage shot to play, a low percentage option to take on this pitch in these conditions. And he I don't know why he was trying to, I think he was just trying to whip Cummins across. It was not, the ball was not there to be hit like that, and he was it is Pant. He's going to get out occasionally doing something that would look daft if someone else did it, but it's just that he just does it, and that's how he scores his runs. But today's I felt, yeah, maybe he also felt that because he was quite annoyed with himself when he got out. He generally is, he doesn't. He's like, yeah, I'll get out sometimes. I'll not. He goes off pretty. I think he was more annoyed with this than when he got out on 99 against New Zealand. And 99 against New Zealand, he was just disappointed that, oh, I missed a century. But here he was like annoyed at himself that I shouldn't have done that. I got that feeling that maybe, yeah, he also thought that particular shot today was low percentage even in the Pant universe.
There was a great moment when he was batting. I think he was batting with Juve Durrell, and he hit the ball straight back down the wicket. Just pushed it back down the wicket, and he called yes, and he started running. And I don't know who was fielding for Australia, but they came in from mid-off, and they were going to walk it. They could have picked the ball up, taken a bite out of it like an apple, and still run him out if he'd gone to that end. And Juve Durrell was just like, just settle down. You don't. Not everything has to be in sixth gear, Rishabh. Just settle down. And Rishabh couldn't stop laughing at himself. Like he'd realised he almost just ran himself out, and he thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a great moment. What a great day of cricket. The bookmakers have this as an even game. I think India is still well in front at the moment, but we don't know what's going to happen because the curator put extra grass on this wicket so that it held together and was better for batting on days 2 and 3. It should be at its best for batting tomorrow. The problem for Australia is they've got no batters left, really, other than Carey. And then India's going to be back in again. This game could go in about 12 different directions from here. So many times today I thought something was about to happen in one direction and it just pulled back in the other. It's been a fascinating day's cricket. Me and Saurabh will be back with you again on Following On India tomorrow and for every day of this test. And when I say every day of this test, we were assuming it was going to be 5 days. Let's just reel that back in a little bit at the moment. At the moment, we're tracking at about 2.5 days, but we'll see how we go. But we will be back here. We are on talkSPORT's cricket YouTube channel. Find us there, and we'll see you again very soon here on Following On India.